Acknowledge that. Okay. Hello, everybody. How are we doing today? Yeah, I hate to just jump right into it. Gotta switch over, of course. Ah, good. Live chat is as clever as always. So I have some bad news for the channel. Before we get into that, I'm gonna ask everybody how we're doing. We're gonna see if we can get some responses. Yes, of course the horse came back. The horse, I think, features every stream. I pay him half the revenue that we make from these streams. Just for coming in. So the bad news, unfortunately, the Battlefront 2 video got 120,000 views, so I'm going to have to cancel the Oblivion video, and we are becoming a Star Wars channel now. I know that might be heartbreaking to a few of you, but it's a necessary thing for the future of our enterprise. Yeah, I'm full of shit. I don't know why the Star Wars Battlefront video did so well. I actually don't like it. It's I don't know. I think it's like average, maybe even like slightly below average in terms of my usual content, but for some reason it just performed really well. So anyways, we hit 30,000 subs though. Subs are useless, but it's still a metric that's nice to see. It means we're 3/10 of the way to getting that silver play button, assuming they don't make up a reason not to send me one, or like my channel doesn't get deleted before that point. Today is a fun day. Got done doing a 90-minute recording session. I tried to do only like 30 to 60 minutes, so 90 minutes was kind of rough. Nostalgia sells. Yeah, that seems to be the case. I guess I just have to bait nostalgia now. That is what I have been reduced to. So yeah, I did a recording session today. It's kind of rough because, like with the Morrowind video, all of the audio was recorded over the course of several months. And with this one, I'm kind of trying to get it over with so that I can just focus on the editing aspect of it. I don't know if, I still don't know how I want to handle streaming the editing sessions. Like it would be it would be easy for me to stream doing like the waveform editing, where I go through and cut out all the breaths and little noises that tend to be made during recordings to make it sound good. Because my whole thing is just not like spoiling the video for people. I know that's weird, given my proclivities against spoilers, but I don't know. Anyways, today we got ourselves 2, maybe 3 Oblivion reviews that we're going to be looking at. I kind of regret handling Dime Tree's Oblivion problem video so soon, because if I had saved it until the day, we would have 3 16 to 17 minute Oblivion videos to watch back to back. So unfortunately, I didn't realize what I should have done from the beginning is just like make a giant spreadsheet of all of the Oblivion reviews and come up with a path for that. But we kind of just got excited with the streams when we first started and did whatever the fuck we wanted to, which was fun. We had a lot of fun with those streams. Those are some of the best like live. I mean, I haven't done that many live streams, but that was way better than the week before. What's wrong with spoilers? My only problem with spoilers, I think spoilers are overrated, but in the sense of like, I don't know, you wouldn't want to like watch a stream of somebody editing a Marvel movie before it comes out, if that makes sense. Not that I hold myself to the high standard of Marvel movies. So anyways, We're going to be watching Mr. LGR, that's Lazy Game Reviews Oblivion video, and then we're going to be watching Gman Lives Oblivion video. A couple oddities. LGR, a kind of a older sort of review show. Not somebody that I would expect to be reviewing something after like the 6th console generation. And then Gman Lives, someone that I traditionally thought was like a first-person shooter reviewer doing an Oblivion video. So we got 2 iconoclasts. And before we get to it, there is one more thing. That's the wild card of what we're going to be doing after we finish up with Mr. Gman Lives. So we have a choice. I have 2 separate sequences sitting before me. One of them is the presentation that Emil Pagliarulo gave, the famous presentation that Emil Pagliarulo gave. I need to watch it, so that's something that we might do. Or we have a video from Hero to Zero. I actually linked this on Sunday. I don't know where that video is at right now. Look that up real quick. Isn't Oblivion just an FPS? Really reductively, yes. Gman Lives doesn't like to be criticized. That's like committing a war crime to him. Yes, that is the that is something that I've heard. So, naming yourself Lazy Game Reviews is really bad marketing. Well, he's got like 1.5 million subscribers, so I think it worked for him. From my understanding, from what I've seen of LGR, he does really good videos. So, let's take the horse off screen. I know that that might be controversial to some of you, but it has to happen if we're going to do this stream. So, this is LGR.
You are too pretty to worship in this place.
Bingo. I love the Oblivion cover. I think that I like the Elder Scrolls, like the Morrowind and through Skyrim covers really well. Because like Arena and Daggerfall really leaned on like that sort of older D&D style, which was fine. But there's something about like the book covers that I think works really well for the series. But yeah, technically we got the face gen bingo before the video even started, because it's in his thumbnail. What's the story behind the horse? I needed a screenshot to put on as the overlay, and that was what I found. So that's just like an old screenshot from a Skyrim playthrough where that horse just climbed up that battlement that he's not supposed to be on.
Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion, developed by Bethesda Game Studios and published by 2K Games in March of 2006. And just looking at this box for the PC version, it's clear that Bethesda was keen on correcting the weaker aspects of its predecessor Morrowind, boasting about fully voiced NPCs, an improved combat system, Havoc physics, and a streamlined user interface. It was also the first time an Elder Scrolls game launched with a console port from day one, with Oblivion on the Xbox 360 released alongside the PC version and a PlayStation 3 port arriving a year later, leading some to immediately write it off as, quote, a dumbed-down console game. It didn't seem to stop the masses from snatching it up, though, quickly becoming...
Yeah, but that's not really a metric you can use to say whether it's been dumbed down or not. If anything, the masses snatching it up is kind of an indicator. Let's see. Every single person on YouTube who has Been shitting on Face Fetish, did video on Oblivion. I don't track your sentence. The video is pretty quiet. Okay, hang on. I need to bump it up and turn my audio interface down because it was super loud for me. That's why I turned it down. So if you've adjusted your volume settings, I suggest you brace yourself.
The most successful Elder Scrolls game to date, selling over 3 million units by January of 2007 and moving over 9.5 million units by 2015. As a result, Oblivion remains one of the most played entries in the series, as well as being many players' first Elder Scrolls game at all. So let's go ahead and take a look.
You know, I'm curious about the 2K logo on the PC copy, because as far as I was aware, 2K was just in a publishing deal to handle the Xbox copies, and there's like connotations that comes with the word published with that that a lot of people miss, because publishers tend to act also as like managers for studios, because publishers tend to own the studios that they're over, whereas 2K and Bethesda just had a publishing deal, so 2K was responsible for this one-off, just like how Ubisoft was responsible for some of the publishing for Morrowind. Really nitpicky thing, not a gripe against him. Just something that I'm thinking about, because it's an interesting topic.
Look at the PC version, which came in.
Doom Kid Guy criticized Gman Live's Doom Sigil video and Nintendo console port, which Gman Lives took down due to too much hate from salty hands. Gman took his own video down? Man. I don't know. I don't know enough about how the Doom community kind of conducts itself to know if that's reasonable or not. Yeah, producers is kind of a good term. Are you going to play?
In both standard and collector's edition boxes. Each of these came with a single DVD-ROM containing the game itself, but the collector's edition also had this Making of Oblivion bonus disc packed inside a delightful-looking sleeve. You also get a little ad for the isometric mobile version of Oblivion for flip phones, the requisite in-game world map, this being the province of Cyrodiil, and a 50-page full-color instruction booklet touching on a wide variety of topics like classes, skills, spells, weaponry, and general Elder Scrolls lore. And apparently the collector's edition was supposed to provide both a pocket guide to the Empire and even a gold septim coin, but mine didn't, so screw me, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's just you. I'm afraid to play Shadowkey, too intense, might not ever come out of it. It's a very immersive experience.
Oh well, there's a tale to tell just as soon as you start the game, featuring the dulcet tones of Sir Patrick Stewart.
This is the 27th of last seed, the year of Akatosh 433. These are the closing days of the Third Era, and the final hours of my life.
The story goes
That's a lot of real estate for voice line demonstration.
that while on routine patrol of the Romulan neutral zone, the
Oh, he did it. Get that bingo card. I don't really talk about the manual because I don't have access to it. So, I'm sure there's like a scan somewhere that I could look at if I really cared, but it's not my thing. Please don't bully LGR. I'm not bullying LGR. He makes good videos. This is probably going to be a good video compared to the average we've dealt with so far.
Enterprise encounters a scout ship seeking a... wrong Patrick Stewart game. Here we go. It's about 6 years after the events of the Elder Scrolls Morrowind, and Emperor Uriel Septim VII is freaking out about having seen the gates of Oblivion, and is convinced he's gonna die soon. His 3 sons have been assassinated, and it's clear that he's next on the agenda, so he and his Imperial bodyguards, known as the Blades, are fleeing Cyrodiil because crap sucks. And so your story begins at the main menu, where you start a new game and create a character. In classic Elder Scrolls fashion, this begins with you as an imprisoned nobody,
Well, that's out of sequence.
A blank slate ready to be molded into whatever weird.
Every Oblivion video intro uses the opening scene. That's because the composition of that opening scene is really good. Every Oblivion video intro also uses the main theme, like especially the trumpet piece. But yeah, you are right that it's something that comes up a lot. I think Steam has the Oblivion manual on it. It has Morrowind's. I mean, I could look at it, but again, it's just not something that really comes up for my videos.
Shape you desire. After you choose your name, gender, race, skin tone, and other basic stuff, you can go into a ridiculously complicated character creation toolset and use dozens of sliders to manipulate every millimeter of your appearance. Oblivion became infamous for its uncanny, weirdly proportioned, pudding-faced characters, and it's easy to see why using these tools. Just embrace it, I say, and go with the most ridiculous head you can come up with.
Yeah, but a lot of Oblivion characters, like the ridiculous ones, don't look like that. I fished out my copy of Oblivion. It has 2K on the cover, PC Europe. Interesting.
After this, you're greeted with a much prettier sight than your face, the bleak stone walls of a prison cell. In keeping with Elder Scrolls tradition, this first area acts as the tutorial, although it's more direct in Oblivion than previous entries, with pop-ups blasting walkthrough text at every other turn. In between ham-fisted tutorial boxes, you get freed from your cell by Emperor Picard himself, who brings you along with his entourage of meatheads through the underbelly of Cyrodiil.
Entourage of meatheads. Now, that's an interesting way to describe the blades. He's actually good at making a terrible character, gotta give him that. It is a kind of a skill. Like, he did it really quick. I know it was fast forward, but he did it really quickly. Like, he knew exactly what to do.
Tutorial messages continue to berate you as you perform the elderest of scrollsy things like dispatching low-level rats and scouring each room for weapons, armor, and loot. Along the way, you'll choose both your birth sign and your class, each affecting the skills and capabilities of your characters throughout the rest of the experience. Signs are pre-constructed, but as with previous Elder Scrolls games, the classes can be customized to your liking and named.
I've seen that my copy of Oblivion is bundled with BioShock. Yeah, that was a common promotional thing. They were trying to sell. Oblivion was really popular when BioShock came out, and 2K is the publisher of both games, obviously. So there was a bundle deal you could get where you could get both Oblivion and BioShock. Glenroy is a meathead. That's true. He is a prick. They should have kept his Jeff Baker voice acting, and I think that would have salvaged his character.
Named anything you deem clever. Suddenly you witness the unavoidable death of Professor Emperor Patrick Xavier Stewart Picard VII, who has apparently grown to trust you over the past 5 minutes and tasks you with protecting the irreplaceable Amulet of Kings. Once you reach the sewer exit, it's one last chance to adjust your stats, and then, oh yeah, it's that big Bethesda reveal moment, providing your first glimpse of a world of possibilities that lie in wait. And wow, was this a memorable moment in 2006. At the time, I was still impressed by the open world of Morrowind. Then to see all this not even 4 years later, holy nuts! Drop in that orchestral soundtrack from Jeremy Soule and Daggone. You've got yourself one classy role-playing experience.
Now, I think LGR, I need to comment this because I was looking for an example of somebody who does this, but I think LGR is a practitioner of the stay at level 1 philosophy, if I remember this video correctly. How much of the video have we watched? We were 5 minutes in.
Granted, it ran like week-old garbage on my PC in 06, but even at mid to low range settings, it was still the most gorgeous open world I'd ever seen. The Gamebryo engine has certainly had its detractors over the years, and rightfully so, with its penchant for instability and bizarre technical shortcuts that can result in legendarily glitchy gameplay, but you have to give it props for providing such lovely scenery, and breaking new ground with HDR lighting, specular mapping, and lush vegetation. Even though it absolutely killed my computer to do so, there was nothing like cranking the lighting, shadows, and grass settings to the max and admiring the flora and fauna. Just look at that grass. There's so much of it, and it wafts. Wafts, I say! Then there's another graphical aspect that has, in my opinion, aged poorly, and that is the intense bloom. Effects like this have dated games from the mid-2000s almost more than anything else. It just looks strange in retrospect, with its
Yeah, I think the engine argument's kind of overrated because, as other people have pointed out, like CryEngine has been going on almost as long as Gamebryo. So, like, it's fairly evident that the problem isn't the engine. The problem is the people who are using the engine. Which you can say that's minutia. That's such minimal difference.
blown out colors and artificial looking glow around objects. Still, even going back to it.
But I mean, yeah, as it said, you could give Bethesda Unreal and they'd probably still have a fucked up game. It all depends on the team that's working on it.
Now it's no deal breaker since the gameplay of Oblivion remains pretty darned enjoyable. You're given a huge map to explore right from the beginning, and whether or not you choose to follow the main story path is entirely optional. If you want to immediately head underground and hunt for treasure, go right ahead. If you want to explore one of the big cities, go for it. There are even fast travel points provided.
If you get a new engine, you lose mods? Not necessarily. Gamebryo had to be heavily modified to be as accessible to mods as it is.
From the word go. Personally, I just pick a random direction and start walking. Or, well, more accurately, I start running and jumping constantly. Gotta get those athletic and acrobatic skills up, know what I mean? And if I'm not run jumping, I'm riding a horse, because horses are a thing again. Stables can be found outside each major settlement, and you can either pay for one outright, or go full bandit and steal one to ride off into the sunset. And it won't be long until something tries to kill both you and Mr. Ed, so it's a good thing Bethesda overhauled the combat system. Because, as much as I absolutely love Morrowind, I've never been...
What weapon is he using? I think that's Iron Sword. Icon makes me think Iron Dagger, but the icons are so similar between all the iron weapons in Morrowind. But where's your fatigue, man? I'm fairly confident that's Iron Sword. So at least it's not the prototypical no stamina swinging the Iron Dagger on the wrong class meme. Iron Tonto? Does Iron have a Tonto? Let's look it up. It does. Yeah, then I guess it is the Iron Tonto. So. I'd say the combat animations needed an update. Yeah. I'd say that's fair. To be fair, Elder Scrolls in general has shitty combat. Yeah, but they actually could have been early to, like, what makes good modern first-person brawler games, like Mordhau. So...
I've never been tremendously fond of its combat. I mean, I understood it and accepted it, dice rolls and all that, but Oblivion was the first time with any Elder Scrolls game I just didn't think about what I was doing when killing stuff. Swinging axes...
Is that a good thing, though? I'm gonna clip that. Didn't think about it.
Swinging axes, clubs, and swords into your enemies feels more intuitive now, like you're actually connecting with a body and not just flailing their general direction, hoping for a...
It's weird he would use that clip as an example when he has better footage in the Morrowind video, but he uses that footage as an example if it's not so bad. The system was fine to me, it just didn't communicate the detail of the mechanics to the player visually in the animation. Yes. I've always said that. If you had a combat log, I think people would complain less, and I think if there was just a dodge animation, people would complain less. But what the fuck is this "don't think about it" meme?
Lucky hit. And ranged attacks in the form of bows and magic come across as more satisfying with predictable results right from the start. No need to level up a ton to dole out notable damage. Part of this has to do with Oblivion's dynamic level scaling, where enemy strength and
Elder Scrolls isn't a combat simulator action series, it's an RPG, or at least in theory. Yeah, but it's sort of a blending of sort of action gameplay, because you still have to aim, you still have the mechanical level of mechanical skill to it. I think he means you're more immersed and not thinking about combat dice rolls. I don't buy it. Well, Joseph Anderson's a whole other thing.
Damage dealt adjusts to your current abilities. So as you level up, each new enemy becomes stronger, with the idea being to provide a smoother difficulty curve and to keep combat challenging. But the strength of this system is also its weakness, and that is that no matter what, there's always a chance you'll get pummeled by some random encounter, even after you've become a battle-hardened warrior capable of slaying the baddest demons around. But that's more of a late-game balance problem, and it doesn't affect every playthrough in the same way.
Oh, man. Morrowind was never about skill of the player. It's about what the Nerevarine can do within the game world. Yeah, but you still have to aim a bow by hand. You know what I mean? That's sort of my point, is that it has action game elements, and it has an RPG system on top of that, and that's what this purpose of hit chance is adding that RPG element when you also have the fact that you have to control the player, as opposed to a traditional RPG where you just tell the player what to do, like in a turn-based game. Finished my drink. My pink drink.
Besides, I'm more interested in sneaking into places and stealing all their stuff anyway, and thankfully that remains quite a good time indeed.
It's weird that you would say combat improved but not thievery, unless that's literally the next line.
I especially enjoy combining stealth and thievery skills with magic to crawl around nearly invisible.
Because you can't say that combat got better and then go, but thievery's still the same. No, thievery's what got better. I think when Morrowind came out, the expectations and boundaries of action versus exploration RPG gaming were not as obvious as they are to us now. In a sense, yes, but I don't know. It's not like we were fucking cavemen back in 2002. Problem is when you clearly hit the model, but a dice roll says no, you didn't. No, that's not a problem. I mean, yes, it's a problem in the sense of you're not getting feedback to what actually happened, but just because the models intersect doesn't mean you fucking landed the blow.
And take advantage of every attack I can. Sneak damage multiplier. That never gets old. Still, gotta be careful though, since NPCs often jump at the chance to run and call for guards instead of fighting, which means...
Stop right there, criminal scum! Nobody breaks the law on my watch! I'm confiscating your stolen goods. Now pay your fine, or it's off to jail.
So here's another highly discussed point of contention, the voice actors. Or rather, the lack of them. It's not that the acting itself is bad, for the most part it's actually quite good. And considering that this is the first Elder Scrolls to feature fully voiced dialogue for every NPC, it's impressive in sheer sense of scale. You've got Bethesda game staples like Wes Johnson, Michael Mack, and Elizabeth Noon, in addition to Hollywood actors like the aforementioned Patrick Stewart, as well as Linda Carter and Sean Bean.
Something has changed. Joffrey believes that the death of the Emperor and the darkening of the Dragonfires is the key.
The issue arises from the fact that there are around 50,000 lines of dialogue that were only voiced by about a dozen people. So you ended up with tons of NPCs that sound identical, especially if they're the same race or character class. The repetition is bad enough that it's a meme to this day, yet in a sense, I find it charming. It's like this whole world is an amusement park that spent most of its budget on set dressing and
Yeah, E3, Bethesda E3 is literally the Bethesda amusement park, so...
the staff is just doing the best they can to act out a story with the limited resources on hand. Same goes for a large number of the dungeons. They really start to look confusingly similar and rather bland before long. There's nothing
Don't say copy-paste, please.
wrong with using a bunch of pre-made components to build these things, and besides, apparently there was only one guy at Bethesda in charge of building all of them.
This is what happens.
Apparently there was...
This is what happens. Here's the thing. I don't particularly blame LGR for this. I blame the Elder Scrolls community for not being more vigilant in disproving this piece of misinformation. Because then you have guys like LGR who aren't part of the Elder Scrolls community. He's just a reviewer. So he's poking his head in to look at these games. And so when he does his research, he needs the information to be as accurate as possible. And when we allow this misinformation to go around that Oblivion had one designer for all of its dungeons, this is what happens. You have people who aren't in the community who make these mistakes. Is Pat's ultimate goal to watch so many Oblivion videos? All he needs to do is recall it from mind in order to make the 10-hour script. The script's already basically done. I'm just looking for examples of stuff at this point. Like, this is great because now I have a concrete example I can use when we talk about the dungeon design to go, look, this is what happens because we allowed this misinformation to go around. I'll play it again.
Same goes for a large number of the dungeons. They really start to look confusingly similar and rather bland before long. There's nothing wrong with using a bunch of pre-made components to build these things, and besides, apparently there was only one guy at Bethesda in charge of building all of them. But, more often than not, in Oblivion, it's painfully obvious, which led to me ignoring most of the tertiary caves and dungeons in favor of those from the main story. And the story itself is, it's an Elder Scrolls story. There are ancient prophecies and powerful objects and great beings and all that stuff, and I quite enjoy the world building and lore presented. But more often than not, I get distracted and find myself joining a cult or something. The usual guilds and their associated quest lines are here, and they're awesome. The Thieves Guild, the Mages Guild, the Fighters Guild, and the Stabby Guild, aka the Dark Brotherhood. Have to appreciate a group of people who enjoy nothing more than helping each other pull off the best murdering possible. You also deal with the Order of the Mythic Dawn in Oblivion, a Daedric cult that brought about this whole Oblivion crisis in the first place, in an act that had detrimental effects on the property.
Well, you have to assume that if Wikipedia says that Oblivion had one dungeon designer, then that's got to be true.
Values of Cyrodiil real estate, Oblivion gates have popped up all over the place like fiery zits on the face of Satan. Entering one of these gates teleports you to one of the many planes of Oblivion, filled with Daedra and other nasty creatures hell-bent on being evil and whatnot.
No, I'm not denying that the dungeons feel similar. The problem is they had too few like pre-made assets for the designers to work with. The thing is, like, every dungeon in Oblivion's like needlessly complicated and would have taken so much fucking effort for them to make that, yeah, I can see 6 people making that many dungeons in only a couple years. You might go, well, shouldn't they have been able to make more? Well, if these guys probably worked on it like 18 months that they were making dungeons, 40 hours a week, just like every week churning out one good, giant dungeon full of clutter and enemies and design and all that. Like, look in the CS sometime at like just a random Oblivion dungeon and you'll see that like there's a lot of effort that goes into that, but it's misplaced effort because the design is so terrible.
Within each Oblivion gate,
how many people actually designed the dungeons? So the dungeon team was 6 people. The reason that the reason that the misinformation goes around is Todd Howard said that there was effectively 1.5 dungeon designers in Oblivion, which may be the case. The thing is, we don't really have a good demonstration of the workflow that Bethesda used for the dungeon design. So like one possibility is you have a dungeon designer, that's the guy's title, and what he does is he sets the flow of how dungeons are supposed to be. So he draws the map, and then you have another guy who comes in and he places all the assets, and then you have a third guy that comes in and he's responsible for putting all the clutter in the dungeon down. So there might be one level designer and the rest of them are environment artists, but that doesn't mean that it's all made by one guy, because that's an insane claim to make. And we don't even know if it's true, because it's marketing. Todd Howard was literally marketing for Skyrim, which had 8 designers. That's the main thing he wanted to say was Skyrim's dungeons not going to be like Oblivion's. Oblivion only had 1.5 guys working on it. With Skyrim's got like 8,000 guys working on it, so it's going to be so much better. It's shitting on something old to make the new thing look good.
There's a towering central tower in the center, and tucked away up top is a powerful sigil stone. If you make it up there alive, then grab onto that sucker, watch as everything goes apocalyptic, and hooray, the gate is now closed. Hope you enjoyed that, because they continue generating all over the map. Several of them are handcrafted realms pertinent to the story, but the rest are randomly generated and the fun runs out fast.
Yeah, it's randomly generated. Technically true, but carries connotations. It's not like a roguelite that usually like just generates the level at runtime. It's just picking from a list of 7 presets. Morrowind prefabs are noticeable, but dungeons are put together better, often having levitation in mind and underwater segments. I think the deal with the Morrowind dungeons being better is that there's a set number of things you can accomplish with Morrowind's prefabs, and I think that they do everything you can accomplish only a couple times for each dungeon type. So I was thinking about it. I might make a video where I go into detail about starting from scratch and making like a dungeon in each Elder Scrolls game to kind of share some light into how it really works.
As a result, it's an unfortunate fact that my least favorite part of Oblivion is, well, Oblivion. Thankfully, you can ignore most of them if you want to, and enjoy the freedom to play the role of your choosing. This includes buying houses again, with several domestic dwellings available for purchase in multiple locales, each of which can be decorated. Up to a point anyway. You can't place individual items wherever you'd like, instead relying on merchants that offer preset furniture and decor. Yeah, seems like a good time to talk about the bartering and speech systems, which are largely affected by associated skills and haggling percentages, in addition to your relationship with each given individual. And I've never been too enamored with this mini-game, but once you get used to it, it's whatever. Beyond straight-up bribery, there are 4 possible methods of NPC persuasion: joke, admire, boast, and coerce. All 4 must be attempted each round of persuasion, and each NPC will respond differently. This can be swayed by charm spells and speechcraft, but I still find it a chore, especially since there are some characters that require a high relationship to proceed to their next quest. Oblivion is a fascinating example of a game that feels like it has one foot in the future and another firmly in the past, like a college freshman at a bar making a concerted yet clumsy effort to come across as legal age. And considering Oblivion released at the dawn of a new generation in gaming, this only makes sense. The mid-2000s were a transitory time for role-playing games, where expertly crafted but technically complicated CRPG series of old were being updated with flashier graphics, big-name voice acting, and vast open worlds. So some changes were to be expected. Comprehensive NPC voice acting resulted in a decreased number of written lines for each character. An interface tailored for game controllers and lower-res TVs meant less info on screen at once and increased.
Why? I'm looking at his gear. Why would you do this to yourself?
info on screen at once, and increased menu navigation to find what you desired. And the addition of quest markers on your compass and hot-linked points of interest in your journal made navigation a breeze at the expense of some sense of explorative mystery. While these changes may have bothered some hardcore purists, the fact is it made Oblivion.
Oh, hang on, I gotta get that quote.
While these changes.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
While these
what are his little blue gloves? That's his skin.
Changes may have bothered some hardcore purists, the fact is it made Oblivion the most broadly accessible Elder Scrolls thus far. It remains one of the most captivating RPGs of its generation and
he's not even a dark elf, he's a Bosmer.
Handily outsold its predecessors, so
he's just blue.
No surprise it got several expansions and re-releases over the years. Though the first
you see how small he is compared to all the other NPCs? If he was a Dunmer, he would be the same height as this guy. He's playing a Bosmer with blue skin, which is funny.
Though the first re-release wasn't exactly due to popular demand. In May of 2006, the Entertainment Software Rating Board increased the rating of Oblivion from teen, ages 13 plus, to mature, ages 17 and up.
Yeah, I miss the early 2000s. I miss the ESRB actually doing shit proactively to make video games look good. Instead of going loot boxes, that's not fucking gambling.
Reasoning behind this was somewhat similar to the 2005 re-rating of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, where locked assets had been found on the disc that allowed for undisclosed sexual content to be accessed in-game. Granted, this can only be done with third-party modding tools on the PC version, but it resulted in unsold inventory being relabeled, marketing being pulled and republished with the new rating, and a reissuing of Oblivion with a mature rating printed on the packaging. And yes, this included the 360 version too, even though the content wasn't accessible on that platform. The next re-release was a little more reasonable, being the Game of the Year edition in 2007. This contained the original game as well as the 2 expansion packs.
What's funny is the ESRB existed to kind of discourage the federal government from regulating video games. And because they're not performing that function anymore of self-regulation, they are basically asking to get fucked into the ground.
Knights of the Nine and Shivering Isles. The 2 packs were released individually before this though, as you'd expect for traditional expansions. While these didn't alter the gameplay very much, they were still substantial in terms of new quests and items. Knights of the Nine presented a storyline filled with shrines, temples, and relics of ancient crusaders and visions of ghostly knights in the sky. And Shivering Isles injected a bit of twisted darkness in the form of the Realm of Madness, with the lands of dementia and mania ruled by a Daedric prince. They're both absolutely worth playing if you enjoyed what Oblivion had to offer and want some juicy new storylines, but these weren't the only additions post-launch. Let's talk about horse armor. See, in 2006, downloadable
bingo
content, or DLC, was still a relatively new concept. It's not that downloadable content itself was new, we'd had that on PC for ages, but the idea of having piecemeal content that was purchasable through an online storefront was fresh, and Oblivion was one of the first to the party with the introduction of the Horse Armor DLC pack on Xbox Live. For just $2.50, you could get armor for your horse. Yeah, at least Horse Armor provided an in-game side quest of sorts, as well as a welcome help.
What? I'm sorry, what? An in-game side quest? No. Hang on. Where is she? Oh shit. Everything's off. They didn't record a single new line of dialogue for Horse Armor. This is all the new textual dialogue, but you'll see what I mean.
What can I interest you in? You've got to be kidding. Let's see what we've got here.
So that's literally 2 generic merchant lines and 1 response line to the Persuasion Pie game. So they actually were just taking like old dialogue lines and repurposing them. And the quest is literally just, you got a note, now show up to this place. I mean, compared to loot boxes as an in-game side quest, yeah, but all of the DLC had that. The Morrowind plugins had that shit. The fucking Creation Club stuff has this basic thing. Calling it a quest is very generous. Anyways, I'll be right back. After this ad break... Wait, shit, no, I can't put ads. Ugh. Wait, is there an ad break? No, because I can't monetize these streams. I mean, I can. I'm actually well within my rights to monetize these streams. I just don't on principle. So. Anyways, get out of the main sequence. Just a weird way to present it. This DLC is so lazy.
Health boost to your noble steed. Still, horse armor remains a symbol of lackluster DLC, and a warning sign of what was to come with the idea of games as a service.
I've heard some people defend the horse armor by saying it was meant to be free, but due to some license around the consoles, they had to charge for it. Any way to know if this is true? That's not true, because horse armor was more expensive than the other add-ons that they released. So the average add-on price was like $189, and horse armor was $250. That was a big part of the controversy right there, was that you could get Frostcrag Spire or the Vile Layer, or hell, I think Spell Tomes was even cheaper than that. I mean, I can look it up right now, but Oblivion Spell Tomes DLC cost. I think Spell Tomes was like less than $1 when it first came out. Like 50 Microsoft points or something like that. Oh, finding this historical price data always sucks. Because no one ever saves how much it cost. But I'm fairly... I remember it being, like, cheap. I think you're confusing Oblivion with Left 4 Dead. What? Okay, I think this saves it. Cheapest. The cheapest is Spell Tomes, but god damn it. Oh, so Spell Tomes was 80 Microsoft points, which was $1. So Bethesda and Spell Tomes adds more fucking stuff than horse armor. So Bethesda could have charged a lot less, and they didn't. Wasn't it $5 on launch and then cut to $250? Okay, so the $5 thing, they put all of the DLC on sale, but doubled the price of horse armor as a joke, and it actually sold better after that point, because people were just buying all of the DLC on sale, and then, like, because they were buying everything, also bought horse armor even at the markup. But okay, so horse armor was $2 because it was 200 Microsoft points. But I'm gonna clarify this. So it's not just visual. Like, you're not just dressing your horse up. It does actually provide a negligible gameplay difference by adding like 250 health to your horse. That's all it does. Isn't there some policy on Xbox you have to charge for new content or something? One of the reasons... no, you're confusing it with... Microsoft charged money to implement patches for games. It was like $50,000 to put out a patch. I do appreciate that donation. I have to raise money to pay for the this fucking Creation Club stuff somehow. I bought some the other day because I was doing a test run of Skyrim. And I needed to... Particularly survival was what I had to play with. And I saw some of it was on sale, so I saved like $3. But
in the future, there were a number of more
could you even put the armor on Shadowmere? Yes. You can go to the horse page on the UESP. And you can see there's a table. And one of the stats on the table is armored health. And all of the horses except the free horse you get from Wayne Priory and the unicorn could have armor. So if you put armor on Shadowmere, he'd have 750 health, which was pointless because he never fucking died. So, you're paying for CC garbage? Yeah, it's officially sponsored content. That's not the half of it. I'm spending some money on this fucking... on this future Skyrim video. It's gonna be really fun. Have they even updated it since last year? Yeah, they stopped doing stuff on it like in 2019. They just do sales now.
Substantial DLC packs as well, like the Wizard's Tower and Maroon's Razor, all of which were packed into the Oblivion 5th Anniversary Edition in 2011. This came in a steelbook case and combined all of the officially released...
I think it came with Knights of the Nine. Like, I think Knights of the Nine was just a content roundup. That was how PC players got it back in the day. Got all that content back in the day. Also, there are ways to completely legally obtain Creation Club stuff, of course.
Content and updates in one package, a fitting last hurrah for Oblivion, hitting shelves just...
You have to bear in mind, me getting Creation Club stuff is not an endorsement of the Creation Club. And it's not that big a deal that I'm giving Bethesda money, considering I'm going to make a lot more money just on the part where I trashed the Creation Club.
A handful of months before the Elder Scrolls V was set to launch. And then in 2016 came the announcement that Oblivion was receiving a backwards compatibility update for Xbox One users, followed by an enhanced version on Xbox One X that lets you play the game in full 4K resolution, something only possible on PC in the past. Nifty. And that's The Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion, an RPG classic with a bunch of solid gameplay that still holds up, and a bunch of caveats that have only gotten more glaring over time. It's a flawed game, to be sure, but a welcome one. And what Elder Scrolls isn't a little iffy, you know? As many things as there are to...
What Elder Scrolls isn't iffy? Well, let me interest you in the latest Elder Scrolls title, Skyrim VR. This is the latest in the Elder Scrolls series, and I personally find it to be a flawless title. I think that Bethesda has once again nailed the gameplay formula. Alright, I can't do that shit.
To enjoy about each entry, there are more than likely just as many things to scrutinize, yet I keep coming back to them over and over for years and decades after they've released. There's something oddly endearing and entirely captivating about the Elder Scrolls, and Oblivion is no exception.
Why's your closeout section so long? Oh, you're saying something here. Probably selling the Patreon or something.
Yeah, criminal scum. Did you enjoy this retrospective? If you did, then check out my others. I've done a bunch over the years.
All right, that's LGR. If you liked LGR's video, you've probably already heard of him. He's decent sized. Next is next one's going to be a little unfortunate. We're recovering Gman Lives Oblivion video. I actually don't know if this is a good one or not. But I do know that Gman has not responded to criticism positively in the past. So, yeah. Don't diss my boy LGR. LGR was great. He had a few good lines that I can use. Like, he didn't really say anything. Like, none of his arguments were flawed. Way better than the fucking Dime Tree video, I'll say that. In terms of like minute by minute content. What exactly did he say? Well, it's just a game review, so it's just 18 minutes of, hey, this is what Elder Scrolls 4 is, which is fine. Retrospective, he hardly said anything. Well, retrospective is like the biggest meme term in video titles. What the hell is a retrospective? It's literally just looking back at the past. There's no connotations for what it is. Like analysis. Analysis has connotations for what it is. You can't be general in an analysis because by definition it's complex. But retrospective is, you know, just as general. So, let's get into it. Oh, hang on. I'm gonna bully you. 1 second. What the fuck? What in the fuck? I knew this was coming and it still caught me off guard. He made this video 2 years ago. Why do you have an After Effects intro?
This is the 27th of Last Seed.
Oh, scratch it off your bingo card. I really gotta add it. I started keeping a list. Did you upload the stream where you looked at Summoning Salt's video? It's on the work playlist somewhere. You'll find it. I think it's... I can't tell you which one it is, but we only watched like 10 minutes of it, and the stream was begging me to stop. What the hell was I? Oh, yeah. I gotta add this to the bingo card, because I'm keeping a list of everything that's in the bingo card, so that when my Oblivion video comes out, we can do, we can play bingo. I think it'll be fun, because I, as much as I make fun of it, I mean, I have to talk about the same shit too. I have to talk about horse armor, and I'll show this at some point, and I have a Captain Picard joke. All right, there she is. Intro cutscene. There you go. It's on the list now. Where's my flashy neon After Effects intro? I prefer... I'm trying to get the VTuber shit set up. No, not VTuber stuff. But I am getting a model made so I can do like a custom intro, which is going to be that like 3D environment I made.
The year
There's not an official bingo card yet, but once we have all the terms listed, I'll set one up.
of Akatosh 433.
Oh yeah, this is 17 minutes. That's why I wanted Dime Tree's video, if we hadn't done it already, because then we could have done the perfect triple feature.
The Elder Scrolls.
Summoning Salt or the Salt Factory? Oh, Salt Factory. That's the one we did. Is Oblivion as good as I remember? That's the video we watched. What the hell is Summoning Salt? That name sounds familiar. I just assumed that that was who we were talking about. Isn't he like a speedrun guy? Yeah, okay. Just the chat guy was fucked up. He was thinking of Salt Factory and said Summoning Salt. Summoning Salt does the speedruns. Am I bald in real life? I actually have a lot of hair in real life. I saw that good for Salt Factory. He released a Mass Effect video. I was thinking about how I could do that. And he did it. So, good on him.
Series, it's one that's had a long-running history with gamers, and I know it's a game series that I've had a bit of a love-hate relationship with. Morrowind was the first Elder Scrolls game I really remember looking at and being impressed by in terms of its scope, but it was really Oblivion that I spent the most amount of time playing when it was released way back in 2006. I'd argue it's the one that's probably the most popular with gamers, mostly because it was also released on the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360.
I don't know why you put the order like that. I don't think its PS3 release was particularly popular.
Increasing its potential demographic even more. Gotta say, I probably spent about a couple hundred hours playing it when I had it on the PS3, and at least a couple hundred more when I...
Well, that's the thing is, if I do go bald in real life, then my avatar is already there. I didn't know Razorfist made an Oblivion video. I know he made a video talking about Morrowind and Daggerfall, and he was talking about Julian LaFay, but does he have an Oblivion video? Oh, he has an Elder Scrolls retrospective video. Yeah, I'd rather not. Too general.
I bought it on PC.
You're a big fat liar.
Now, Oblivion is far from a perfect game, and time sure hasn't been kind.
Is love-hate relationship common enough for the bingo card? I don't think it is. Bingo card is something that like shows up in every Oblivion video. Like I think it has to show up in 80% of the videos for me to count it.
To it, but despite all its problems and the drama Bethesda has had over the years, it's a game that's still really popular for a lot of various reasons. And yeah, even though I really dislike a lot of aspects of it, I also really love other parts as well.
Is that so?
And seeing as Elder Scrolls recently had its 25th anniversary, there seems like no better time than the present to talk about it. So, let's do it.
What can I do for you?
I'll start off the video by saying that I'm going to be playing this game unmodded and as vanilla as possible. I know there's a whole heap of people out there who defend games because of the condition they can personally make them with mods, but I'm not going to be doing that. So if you can deal with that, well, let's get into it.
He said, "Fuck you, modders. Don't fucking comment on my video." Maybe mentioning the faces could be on the bingo card, but that may be too common. No, common's important. The face gen's on the bingo card. Oh, by the way, this is on the bingo card too. Why? Why do they always do so long?
Now, like Morrowind before...
I know. Oh, long, but I mean, like... I usually have stuff going on, not just the... Here's the intro sequence. Have I watched Seth's Morrowind video? Yes, it's good.
Oblivion starts you off as a nameless prisoner. This time around, you're in the Imperial City prison for reasons unknown. Coming into...
I don't think you can upload a video longer than 11 hours and 59 minutes. I think... I'm pretty confident the Oblivion video is not going to be that long. But if for some reason the video ended up having to be that long, I think... No, I don't even think, like, live streaming it would do it. Like, maybe I could live stream the video and then, like, the VOD would be the full thing, but I think I would just have to partition it if it was longer than 12 hours.
Contact with Emperor Uriel Septim, voiced by Captain Jean-Luc Picard.
Scratch that off the bingo card.
Shortly before he's assassinated by the Mythic Dawn cult.
Gods give me strength.
Dark Brotherhood has to be on the bingo card. I think that's too general, but the joke about... The example, the Dark Brotherhood having humor is on the bingo card, basically.
Before he's killed, Uriel babbles on about prophecies and some such garbage, hinting at events you'll soon come to play a part of. Before you're allowed to...
That's oddly specific length. It's, No, it's, 11 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds, which is, you know, the one frame before 12 hours.
To start creating your own character, which is all that really matters. From this point on, you're able to create a character of your choosing down to their race, gender, appearance, and eventually their starting
Live stream cuts at 12 hours. EFAP reached that a few times. Okay.
class, of which there's like a dozen or so.
I might have it backwards then, but I saw a live stream that was like 23 hours long, so I don't get the rules. I only have to worry about it, though, if I run into the issue of hitting that length, and I don't think I am.
Also, after this short prologue...
Oh, hang on. What the fuck? Nice.
After this short prologue, you're basically given the responsibility of finding Uriel's long-lost heir.
I think the responsible way to make the joke is, I might need to retool it. But the responsible way to make the joke is probably find, like, the most obscure, Patrick Stewart role he ever did and do that. Because he's in a lot of stuff.
And released into the open world of Tamriel without so much as a pat on the back, left entirely up to your own devices. Now, role-playing is the name of the game, and this is something that Oblivion does pretty well. The way that skills work in Oblivion is that you're given a half dozen or so main skills, depending on the class you've chosen. So if you're playing a warrior, for instance, these are going to be things like heavy armor, blade weapons, blocking, and so forth. Pick a thief and it'll be light armor, archery, lockpicking, and sneaking. All up, I think there's 22 skills you can choose from.
Why is he so vague? These are objective things. They're objective attributes. There's I don't know, somewhere around 22 skills. Dude, there's 21 skills. There's 7 skills in each class. You don't say, oh, it's around a half dozen, it's around 22. Like, what the fuck is this?
Depending on the class you're playing as, which is a hell of a lot of replayability just right off the bat. Then even if you don't want to be a straight up warrior class, there's still builds that have a combination of magic and melee weapons. And you might also want to specialize in something like speechcraft as well, so there's a whole lot of ways you can approach it.
Yes, whatever you say.
I found the best build involves a good mix of melee weapons combined with destructive and restoration magic. So you can dish out damage from a distance, heal if need be, and just whack things if they get too close. In essence, too, by choosing a class, the game's kind of forcing you to play the role you're starting with instead of being a jack of all trades.
Yes.
I mean, you can still do that, but you're going to want to stick to your class and play to its strengths. Now, the catch to all of this is that regardless of the skills you're leveling up, the world around you is becoming stronger as well, and this is where the shit can kind of hit the fan. What it means is that if you spend too much time leveling up things that don't factor into your combat effectiveness, like maybe speechcraft or alchemy, you're going to be up shit creek when it comes time to go back out there and start killing things, as you're probably going to be pretty underpowered. Part of what I really enjoy about playing RPGs is being able to level up enough that I can breeze my way through certain dungeons, or at least make it a little bit easier. But when everything scales with you, it takes that sense of progression away. And
Civvy? Question mark? That's cruel. Don't do shit like that.
you never really feel like you're becoming super powerful because enemies will always be on the somewhat same playing field as you. Your apprentice level skills often feel about as effective as your master level skills in the long run. The other problem is that a lot of the quest rewards you get scale with your levels, so if you do a quest at a lower level, the item is going to be objectively inferior than doing it at a higher level. It's a system that's tried to allow the player to move at their own pace, but it's come at the expense of a more solid and well-rounded progression and leveling up system. And I honestly would have just preferred if the zones were segregated by the level of the enemies in them, like, you know, pretty much every other RPG. And yes, I know there's probably some mod out there that fixes it, but that's not the point. Early on in the game, you'll also feel really underpowered too, regardless of the type of character you're playing, compared to later in the game after about 8 or 10 hours, and the default difficulty often becomes trivial. You can also arguably break the game in a few ways too, or at least push the limits a fair bit. I mean, I got my thief character's stats.
Oh no, there's nothing wrong with Civvy, but don't compare... Don't say that Civvy's as bad as Gman, because it's not true. Civvy's great.
So high that I could pretty much just jump from rooftop to rooftop in a lot of the main towns, and it was like I was just floating on air. If you're so inclined, you could probably spend the entire time just going around maxing all these skills out without even touching any of the quests. That's how long it can take to master everything. Now, outside of just dicking around and doing your own thing, there is a main story quest should you choose to accept it, and it can take a pretty long time to get through. But I always found the numerous side quests to be way more entertaining and just more fun. The main story has you meeting up with Uriel's son, Joffrey, voiced by Sean Bean, and with him you'll join up with a secret order called the Blades. You'll take on the Mythic Dawn cult dealing with evil gods and prophecies and a bunch of other boring crap that I never found all that interesting.
Why?
Hit me with that again.
Take on the Mythic Dawn cult dealing with evil gods and prophecies and a bunch of other boring crap that I never found all that interesting.
I see. Okay, here's a question for you. Why do you think I care if you think it's boring or not? This is what I don't understand about the subjectivity crowd. I Okay, so we're going to use generalizations. We're going to say it's bad, but we're not going to elaborate on why it is. It's just boring. Okay. What's the merit of this? Can I have my time back, please? Because this subjectivity review thing, that only works, in my opinion, for like commercial reviewers who are reviewing new games. So if you're going back to old games and kind of taking a look at them, like, I'm not going to watch your video as part of the buying decision for playing Oblivion. Just don't get it.
Bunch of other boring crap that I never found all that interesting.
Why?
And I honestly reckon that dealing with the petty disagreements between a couple of NPCs in a small town on the other side of the map is just way more intriguing and realistic.
Thanks again, my friend. You are always welcome in our home.
Things like members of a Mages Guild chapter not respecting one of their members and playing a practical joke on them, or just the odd fetch quest regardless of what it is.
Yeah, but you're showing the wrong quest. Hang on, I'm going to do your video a favor. Let's go to footage. Let's go to Mages Guild. Let's go to the Mages Guild footage. Okay. So, I think I can show you actually if I bring this up here. So you can actually see all of the sections of the Mages Guild. I have them all noted out. So this makes my production process really easy. I can just go, it's the Bruma Guild Hall. So, and I'm going to literally just click a random frame in the Bruma Guild Hall section like this one. We're going to cut, boom, copy, and then we're going to switch back to Gman Lives, and we're going to go back to the start right here, and we're going to control paste. Now, when do you stop talking about this quest? Boom. Okay, cut. Oh shit, I gotta keep your audio though. Hang on. That's the biggest pain in the ass. Is it pastes in the A1 layer, which I think I can change, but okay. And then we're gonna lower that by 25 decibels, and we're going to replay this section.
Why?
And I honestly reckon that dealing with the petty disagreements between a couple of NPCs in a small town on the other side of the map is just way more intriguing and realistic.
Thanks again, my friend. You are always welcome in our home.
Things like members of a Mages Guild chapter not respecting one of their members and playing a practical joke on them, or just the odd fetch quest regardless of what it is far more captivating to me than the typical old, we've got to save the world nonsense. Some of these side quests are really well constructed.
Whoops. The resolution was fuckered. Because this video's in like 640 by 360 for some reason.
Things like members of a Mages Guild chapter not respecting one of their members and playing a practical joke on them, or just the odd fetch quest regardless of what it is far more captivating to me than the typical old, we've got to save the world nonsense.
So, please, explain to me, why are we looking at footage from the Coral Mages Guild recommendation quest? Are we picking on Joseph now? This doesn't sound anything like Joseph. I literally can't remember a single main quest stage except in generic terms. Yeah, I think that's because Oblivion's main quest starts kind of rough, and a lot of the intrigue behind what happens in that quest is like implied, and it needed a second design pass to make it more interesting. Like, it's boring, and that's fine if you want to, if you think it's boring, but you should elaborate on that, in my opinion, if you're making a video. Subjectiveness is fun if you like the dude and seeing his video in decade. Yes, but I want an explanation for why. I feel this way. Why do you think you feel that way? Why don't you tell us? Play a little psychotherapy on yourself and tell us why you think that way. Here's the thing. I usually don't go after these people if their footage is unrelated, but this is so blatant to me. This is not the right quest. Salt Factory commented on Will's Oblivion video. I didn't see that. Is it in his actual comment section? Because I'll never find it. Oh, I saw Mandalore in there, but that's about it. Wait, we like or do we dislike Joseph Anderson? Well, here's an answer. We don't have opinions on people. We have opinions on people's videos. I mean, yeah, we do have opinions on people, but Joseph's fine. He's made a couple flops, but he's also made a couple good videos, in my opinion.
Some of these side quests are really well constructed too. There's this one where some guy's gotten himself trapped in this kind of nightmarish dream world, and
I'm glad the animations didn't break for you. All the animations for this quest broke for me, so like these swinging things were in slow motion. It's pretty annoying.
you've got to delve into his dreams with a magical amulet and pull him out. And the quest lines for both the Thieves Guild and the Dark Brotherhood are just absolute highlights. I mean, it's worth creating a murderous thief type character just to experience both of these. Simply interacting with NPCs can also have its rewards. I mean, I came across a really pushy guy who owned a bookstore as an example, who has the most aggressive sales approach I've ever seen. And then it turns out the guy's a trainer in blunt weapons. Blunt, get it?
I'm Booga Grabol, and I say you better buy a goddamn book, and right away, damn it.
And yet, despite there being this gigantic world to explore with all these dungeons and loot to find, after a while you'll probably feel like you're just doing the same thing over and over. And
that's the whole point of the bingo card, Derek, is that a lot of these Oblivion videos feel very paint by numbers. They make all the same jokes, they talk about all the same points, they make all the same points. You literally play bingo with the Oblivion video. Dark Brotherhood funny. Although the bookstore one, I mean, that's new. We haven't seen that before. I didn't know that was in the game. That's cool. So good on him.
the reason for that is because you are. Dungeons are primarily caves, ruins, or forts, and once you've seen one kind, you've pretty much seen them all. The closest thing you often get to an end dungeon boss isn't some kind of unique enemy type, it's usually just the same looking enemy you've already killed 20 times with a lot more health points. Or maybe if you're really lucky, they might have an actual name, so yeah, whoop-de-doo. When you're moving through towns, interacting with NPCs, you're going to hear the same half-dozen voice actors over and over, which can be a bit off-putting. And often you might even see the same two in near vicinity.
See? He's stating his opinion while explaining why he holds that opinion. It's off-putting to me that all of the Oblivion voice actors have the same, or that all the Oblivion lines have the same couple voice actors. Okay, I get that. That's not just, oh, it's boring.
I mean, look, it's not like they could have a different voice actor for every single NPC in the entire game, and I'm not trying to give them a hard time for that. It's just that with a game world with such a large scope and so many people to interact with, you often see the downside of it when you've got only a dozen or so different voices. Interacting with NPCs will also freeze everything else going on.
Are you expecting to hear different anecdotal examples in Oblivion reviews? I'm expecting them to not all be so similar. I feel like if you wanted to, you could take every Oblivion review and just cut parts out of it from each of it and like stitch it together into one monster and nothing would change.
Around you, like literally stopping time. You'll see other NPCs in the background frozen in place, which just looks weird. About the only indication of someone's mood you get during dialogue is a handful of preset facial animations. Someone could be talking about the most...
Oh no, preset animations. I mean, what? Do you want mocap? Would that make it better? Obligatory Todd Howard joke, Todd Howard face should be on the bingo card. It is on the bingo card. Todd Howard, I think, is the middle slot.
Mundane thing in the world or something that's potentially world-ending, and they'll just stand there with their arms by their side. Maybe if they're...
I think the Hidden Tier quest is interesting, but the thing about the Hidden Tier quest is it's one of 2 Oblivion quests that involve going into somebody's dream world, and the Hidden Tier quest is the Sheogorath quest in Skyrim, which did that idea better. So it's just one of those things where Hidden Tier's quest kind of filled a niche that is not necessary anymore, in a sense. And it kind of breaks the Bravil Mages Guild Hall. If you accept the recommendation quest and Hidden Tier's quest, you have a chance of softlocking your progress.
Really pissed off, they might have their weapon drawn, but that's about it. Some of the voice acting too in this game is just really bad. I mean, look, some of it is good, but there's some stuff here that's just pure cringe.
Hail, Dragon Boy! Hail, 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 hail,
It's particularly bad when some of the softest...
That's your example of cringe? You had the... I was really hoping he would use the adoring fan as an example of cringe, because, like, Craig Seckler went on the record of saying, like, yeah, we were intentionally playing the adoring fan up for, like, cringe factor, because we wanted people to hate him.
Sounding female voice actors are given angry and aggressive dialogue.
Why aren't these facial animations done with inverse kinematics, Bethesda? This is just ridiculous.
It's like having...
Also, his capture software is capturing the overlay frame rate. Minor thing, but it's funny.
some sweet old lady shouting at
Like, if he had a friend start playing a game, it would pop up in the lower right-hand corner right now.
you.
Well, isn't that nice? Now get out of my face!
Hang on.
It's particularly bad when some of the softest sounding female voice actors are given angry and aggressive dialogue. It's like having some sweet old lady shouting at you.
This is not a sweet old lady, though. This is the battle matron of the arena. This is literally one of the hardest people in Cyrodiil. And it's like, oh, she has a sweet old woman voice, and... The Blade's Temple cheer is really bad, though. That's because all the voice actors aren't in sync with each other. That's the only issue. But I think it would be weird if they were in sync with each other. Like, yeah, it sounds like a crowd of people who aren't in unison. They didn't choreograph it.
Well, isn't that nice? Now get out of my face!
The funniest part is when you talk to an NPC that's bugged and he's got dialogue by two different voice actors.
That's not using that term correctly. That's not. It's not a bug. It's just a really bad feature.
Makes you wonder about the competence of the guard, if you ask me.
Thank you, kind sir.
Visually, the game looked pretty good for its time, and even now, there's just this kind of serene beauty to the environment.
Is this cheating? Because he's using a Knights of the Nine example. I don't think it's cheating, but at the same time, it's like, why wouldn't you just show off the Shivering Isles then?
Environments. And even when it seems like nothing's happening, there's still a lot going on if you look closely. Like the way that the trees and grass sway gently in the breeze, or the way that water ripples calmly in the game's abundant lakes and pools of water. It's really that type of...
That's your metric? The leaves are animated to slightly move, and the water has a texture on it that makes it have little waves. No, okay, so a bug is the Thieves Guild quest where you break into the castle of Leowyn. If the Countess of Leowyn is not in Castle Leowyn when you do that quest, it's bugged and it will soft lock your game and you can no longer progress the quest due to how it's scripted. That's a bug. An NPC accidentally having a voice line change is not a bug, because the game didn't break for that to happen. It's just an oversight. And arguably, you can say it's intentional because that's Sheogorath speaking through the beggar. He's fucking with your head. Wes Johnson is Sheogorath. You can't silence me. I am unmuted.
A game mod you can look at and just easily get lost in. When I was first playing this game, I'd often just go out riding on my horse just to enjoy the serenity of the surroundings, or I'd just stand on a cliff top somewhere observing the landscape. Jeremy Soule composed the music for the game, and it's definitely some of my favourite music I think in any single video game, perhaps ever. And the soundtrack when you're just out and about lapping up the game world I think is going to be etched into my brain for the rest of my life. There's very few games out there that have a soundtrack that's become...
It's still a malfunction? No, it's an oversight. That's not... If for it to be a malfunction, it has to break. It didn't break. It's just an oversight. It's like how you can talk to an NPC who's mute and they accidentally still have a rumors thing on it and then they have a voice line. Oh, I thought this NPC was mute. Yeah, that's an oversight. It's a mistake. That doesn't make it a bug. If it was a bug, then there would be a scripting issue that would cause it.
Become so burnt into the memories of gamers, and every single track just elicits these memories and feelings associated with moving through Oblivion's game world. Whether it be the music when you're in the many towns, conversing with NPCs or selling items, riding horseback across mountains or open fields, or engaging in stealth or combat in caves. It's all just really
It's bad voice direction, not a bug. Yes.
memorable stuff.
It's not even like bad voice direction. They fixed this issue with Skyrim by limiting voice lines. So it's just all the NPCs have like generic pools of voice lines that they'll use, and characters who weren't supposed to have access to those voice lines due to an oversight did have access to them. That's why homeless people will go from the "thank you kindly, kind sir" to "I hear that there are mud crabs down at the lake."
It stands out as some of the most memorable game music ever composed, and I doubt anyone's going to argue that. And even now in 2018, when I hear that main theme kicking in when the menu loads, it just gets me amped up and ready to get in there and kick some ass. Regardless of the race or the gender, it just seems everyone in Tamriel fell off the ugly tree and hit every branch on the way down.
What is that? What the fuck is that?
You're using a Shivering Isles NPC with an extremely exaggerated face for narrative purposes. Like, hold on, let's back this up here. Who's this character? This is Caldana Monrius. I can tell it's a Shivering Isles NPC because of the clothes. Caldana Monrius. Let's read about this NPC. Caldana Monrius is an Imperial commoner who lives a hard life in Crucible, New Sheoth. She is a hardcore skooma addict who always begs you to bring her some. As she spends her nights outside, she will prove useful during the quest The Lady of Paranoia when you have to ask citizens about sufficient behavior. She has constant withdrawal symptoms and spends most of her time in a terrible state, constantly shaking with an unhealthy paleness across her face. Unable to sleep, she spends her nights from midnight to 6 a.m., restlessly wandering the streets of Crucible regardless of weather. She finally falls asleep at her bed at 6 a.m., but wakes up again at 9 a.m. and takes a 2-hour trip to the Sikhelm Arden Sul, praying silently on one of the pews. This is not a normal, well-adjusted person whose face is just fucked up because FaceGen is messed up. This is very clearly a character's face that was intentionally created this way for the benefit of the story that they were telling. If you wanted a good example, you would use... Hang on, let's go back to the Mages Guild footage. Leowin recommendation. This lad. This is a guy that's fucking ugly for no good reason other than you later find out that he's evil. So, evil people equals ugly. There's a good example. There's several Bosmer that would be great examples too, but this is just dumb. Stop nitpicking. Okay. Let's bully his accent.
This has been a bit of a running joke.
Doesn't change the fact that the faces are fucked up in Oblivion. Okay. And?
Joke amongst gamers for a while now, and even for the time, it was pretty shoddy stuff. Speaking of shoddy, there's the combat.
Okay, so why not explain why it is the way it is? Because it's really easy to find the answer. It's embarrassingly easy to find the answer. It's literally one fucking Google search to explain why it is the way. What in the goddamn? I think my internet's shit in the bed.
The combat in Oblivion, it ain't all that good, and it never really has been. Regardless of the class that you're playing, at one point or another, you're gonna have to fight something, be it with melee or ranged weapons. Melee obviously being swords, axes, and so forth, and ranged being either spells or using bows. And it's all just kinda rubbish. Melee combat is painfully simple.
Nobody gives a fuck why they're ugly. Yeah, my god. Can you not post cringe in my chat, Tyler? Because that's some serious cringe. Nobody cares why. Do you know what else nobody cares about? Nobody wants to hear 30,000 fucking people say, "Oh, look at Oblivion's ugly faces. Look at the face gen. It's so messed up." You have 17 minutes to make a fucking point about this game, and you've decided to waste 30 seconds of it talking about face gen. When when you yourself admit that everybody on the fucking planet has already said it, instead of elaborating on why it is the way it is, it's just, it's ugly, it's boring. About the bingo, wondering how much of it is reviewers parroting each other and hitting the same points, and how much of it is Oblivion creating a uniform response because we're similar humans. I don't know, man. There's like I don't know if I'm just gone schizo and I'm seeing a pattern in the numbers here, but like it's a lot of the same things, a lot of the same basic things. It's always Captain. Oh, hang on, I got the list somewhere. It's always Captain Picard. There's always the Shrek monster face gen. Combat, if they ever try to propose a fix to the combat, it's always Dark Souls. If they ever mention a quest, it's always a brush with death, or it's always hack dirt. It's always Satan and Hell comparisons. There's always really vague explanations about level scaling. There's always the introduction they use with the intro cutscene. I mean, what is this drama? No drama. Stop reviewing Oblivion videos and go and write yours. I did write mine. I even worked on it today. Are you saying I can't spend my free time doing this? Because I think you're just mad. I think you're a Gman subscriber who didn't realize. Because haven't you been in here before? Is it wrong because it's your guy now? It was all fine when it was the other people, but now it's your guy. I'm sure that's what it is.
Simple, you've got a basic attack, a heavy attack, and you can block with either the weapon itself or an equipped shield. As you get better with blunt or bladed weapons, you can unlock further.
It was fine when you were shit-talking video games, but YouTubers are too far.
Charged up attacks, but even then the combat's mostly just going to boil down to mashing the attack button over and over. Condemned Criminal Origins came out a year before Oblivion, and it has a melee combat system that really just shits all over Oblivion's, despite being more or less the same in terms of the mechanics, but just vastly more open-ended.
One, that's not how games are developed. And two, I don't know, it doesn't look that interesting to me. It looks like this looks like the feedback kind of meme I was talking about, where it's just, it feels good to play, so the issues aren't as apparent.
Go play it and you'll see what I mean. Enemies have multiple combos, they'll feint their attacks, and the blocking system actually has a use, putting enemies off balance and giving you a window of opportunity to counterattack. It's not uncommon either to see two enemies accidentally hitting each other when they're swinging weapons. In fact, it can often be used to the player's advantage. Oblivion, on the other hand, just feels like two toddlers swinging plastic swords at each other in comparison.
Am I supposed to be impressed?
Yeah, but I think they let you upload longer videos in the past, and then they cut it off at 12 hours at some point.
Spells, on the other hand, are broken down into a number of different categories. You've got alteration, conjuration, destruction, illusion, mysticism, and restoration. The only real outright offensive school, however, is destruction. At least it's the most traditional, with spells like fireballs, lightning bolts.
Isn't feeling good to play having the entire point of having an interactive medium? Yes, but my point is, so I make this point in the video. You have a shotgun. One version of the shotgun has the sound effects and the animations from BioShock, and another version of the shotgun has, I don't know, Doom 2016. Now, mechanically, it's the same shotgun. It does the exact same thing, the same amount of damage, the same relationship. It's the same mechanical shotgun. But all that's changed are the animations and the sounds. I'm fairly confident 90% of reviewers would say the shotgun with the Doom 2016 assets would be, it just feels better to use. It's better, even though it's mechanically the same shotgun than the BioShock one, because most of these people are just looking at feedback and game feel than they are the actual mechanics of it.
etc. The issue I have is that the spells are really crappy early on, and many of the more powerful spells use up a huge chunk of your magicka. Visually too, these spells are incredibly lazy and boring. I mean, early on, the difference between a fire or a frost spell is just the...
My problem sort of is that, like, people don't appreciate that Elder Scrolls tries to do a lot of things generally. Like, I don't know, I feel like you could go the same vein and go, well, why isn't it more like Thief, you know? Thief's got this complicated thievery system, and it's like, well, it has, like, light thief elements. It can't be, like, hardcore thief simulator with, like, really shitty combat, although I guess that is what Thief is. But, like, in the same vein, it's like, you know, really basic combat, but it's trying to do a lot of different things. Really basic, like, horse riding, but it's trying to do a lot of different things. Dark Messiah review one day? Maybe. It could be a good pick.
Color of the particle. It's literally the exact same animation, just with a different color. Now look, I'm sorry to bring out the comparisons again, but I mean, go and play a game like Hexen from the late 90s of all things, and get a look at how vastly different that game handles spellcasting. Arc of Death and the Frost...
Yeah, where it's just, basically just guns. With animations that look like spells.
Shards for the mage, for instance, which are frost and lightning, look entirely different and are instantly recognizable as the elements they're trying to portray. It looks like you're shooting goddamn lightning or ice bolts out of your goddamn hands. It doesn't really change all that much with the high level spells either, and it's a bit disappointing. Similarly with the restoration or alteration spells, the difference between like an ice shield or a fire shield again just changes the color your character glows when it's cast. A few of the spell schools I think are kind of bogus too. Like, I never really bothered with alteration spells because there's never a time when you absolutely positively need these to progress. Conjuration I think is just a waste of...
What? So you don't need it to progress, so what? I don't know. You don't need, like, melee combat to progress. If he says that, like, so I don't really miss that it was cut from Skyrim or something in that vein.
The time and effort, and all of the creatures you summon are just absolutely useless. You'll see...
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely going to disagree with you there. Conjuration's really a lot better in Oblivion than it was in Morrowind because the AI path finds a lot better.
See spider demons and frost golems being bested in combat by cave bears and mountain lions, it's just useless. Or an undead spellcasting lich beaten by bandits. It's like watching a Pee-wee soccer team flogging Manchester United. It can't happen. Shouldn't happen. It just wouldn't happen. And again, like I said, I don't care if there's some kind of mod that makes it all better. We're not talking about that.
I doubt you really mean that.
On the other hand, using a bow and going for a stealth build becomes laughably overpowered after you've leveled up a fair bit, considering you're able to get critical hits when attacking undetected. And you can often attack and still remain hidden against certain enemy types. Oblivion has this ambiguous slider under the difficulty option in the menu, and all this really does is increase the amount of health points that enemies have to the point that they just become absolute damage sponges. Like I said before, the more you level up, the more powerful that enemies become, and though they're not necessarily going to be more intelligent or anything, you can bet your bottom dollar they're just going to soak up your most powerful attacks like it's little more than a slap on the ass.
Hey, most games are a left-click simulator. When you're reductive, you can do it with anything. What's your favorite game? Post it in chat.
Going back to the repetition again, I think another issue is how the Oblivion gates are pretty central to the theme of the game, and there's dozens of these that are popped up across the map. After you've done this 5 or 6 times, it feels like you're pulling teeth, and the different layouts for each Oblivion plane doesn't stop it from feeling tedious. To make it even worse, you have to clear out like a dozen of these, if not more, to simply progress the storyline. At this point, you're probably thinking I'm just some kind of grumpy asshole looking for things to complain about. But I mean, look, despite all these kind of issues and more issues that I haven't even brought up, I still really like the game.
Yeah, who gives a shit if you like the game? Explain it. You being a grumpy asshole has nothing to do with your opinion on Oblivion. Nobody gives a fuck what your opinion on stuff is. They want you to explain why.
I am honored to speak to the hero of the Battle of Bruma.
Part of what makes Oblivion great to play in the current year means you also get instant access to all the DLC, which adds countless more hours, and most of these are actually pretty good. The Knights of the Nine DLC is a personal favourite of mine. You can end up with some pretty rad gear by the end of it. But the Shivering Isles DLC takes place in an entirely new zone where you're in these just bizarre and outlandish environments completing quests for the Daedric Prince of Madness, and it's really creative and surprisingly content heavy.
I'm Sheogorath, Prince of Madness, and other things. I'm not talking about them.
You are probably better off waiting until you've leveled up a fair bit before tackling it, but it again adds a few more hours of gameplay, more or less, depending on your playstyle. Some of the characters you interact with are...
Wait. I really wish I was in the alternate reality where he elaborated on this point. Like, does he have a spreadsheet of how many hours of extra playtime you get based on your playstyle? What, do like fucking stealth archers just get less playtime out of Shivering Isles? That's just a weird thing to say.
Pretty funny to talk to, and it's vastly different in terms of content and tone from the base game. It's
Yeah, Critical Cam, this is your brain on subjectivity.
really like you've fallen down the proverbial rabbit hole.
Strike me, will you?
When you hear people talking about the stability of Oblivion, people act like it crushes more than a one-armed taxi driver with crabs, and I think its errors and bugs are maybe a little bit overstated. Though you will see oddities every now and then, I don't think it's ever been...
I played with the unofficial patch and I had issues. I played with a crash prevention mod and had fucking issues.
been that bad that it's unplayable, and most of the issues have been resolved.
Most of the issues have been resolved. Okay, hang on. Hang on. Where's this fucking quest? Jarji's Heirlooms. Alright. Let me just take up this picture. Okay. This is by far probably one of the most broken quests in the game. It's a Thieves Guild quest. Alright. We're just gonna scroll this real quick. Okay, first of all, let's take a glance here. Oh, hang on. Let me move it so it chats. Yeah, there we go. Okay, let's just scroll through this real quick. Okay, here's a fast scroll. You got all that? All these issues? Let's see. What's my favorite bug involving this quest? So, my favorite bug with this quest is, so in this quest, the Countess, you have to steal a ring from the Countess of Shadenhall while she sleeps, because that's the only time she takes the ring off. However, if she's the little spoon, she doesn't put the ring away. She just doesn't put it away. But if she plays the big spoon, she'll put the ring away, but she won't go to sleep. And by big spoon and little spoon, I mean if she's on the left side of the bed, she doesn't go to sleep. You can see that on screen right now. And if she's on the right side of the bed, then she does. Okay. If the door to Amasai's cell is opened before handing him a lockpick, he will leave and sneak up to just behind the prison door. Despite being out of his cell, he may still insist on being given a lockpick in order to progress the quest. Okay, minor thing. Look, there's 3 fucking circumstances for the ring not showing up. And then the solution that the UESP gives is like, just fucking cheat it into your inventory. The Countess's jewelry ring box can contain 2 identical copies of the quest ring. Immediately after you pick up the first ring, you will get a quest advancement telling you to deliver it to a Darji. As for the second ring, you must leave it behind. If you pick up both rings, a Darji's dialogue options will no longer include the "I found it, here you go" option, and you will be unable to complete the quest. This means no more Thieves Guild missions. This is by far the most broken quest in the game. And as you can see, every time that purple unofficial Oblivion patch text pops up, that's an issue that the fan community had to patch, not Bethesda. The game is a broken piece of shit if you don't use the unofficial patch. And there, you like you can soft lock the game in so many different ways if you don't play it exactly right.
The main thing I've always had problems with across 3 separate PC builds is the frame rate, which is just utterly horrible at times. I can only ever play for about 30 to 45 minutes before the game starts stuttering horribly, at which point the only way to fix it is to close the game and reopen it. There were some pretty serious bugs during quests at launch, which made it literally impossible to beat them without using console commands. But that's the one saving grace to playing this thing on the PC, is that you can just open the console.
For the sake of your productivity, how long are we thinking this stream might go? Let's see. We're in 1 hour 45. I don't know how much more I want to do. We might stop after this video, probably. Well, no, we only got a couple more minutes in this video left, so we might watch some of Emil today.
And force the game to progress. If it happens when you're playing on console though, well, sucks to be you. Honestly though, I think it all just kind of adds to the charm of what makes this game so...
What?
That's the one saving grace to playing this thing on the PC, is that you can just open the console and force the game to progress. If it happens when you're playing on console though...
He never said if he was using the unofficial patch. I wonder if he is or not. Because it's so weird to just go, you might run into the odd issue, just fucking use the console. That's such a weird thing. Console gamers aren't real gamers. It's true.
Well, sucks to be you. Honestly though, I think it all just kind of adds to the charm of what makes this game so unique. It's one of the instances where everything else manages to carry it all along. The sheer amount of time you can stay in Cyrodiil and still find people to talk to and things to do is pretty staggering. And it's a title that really marks what I think is that turning point in gaming, where it seems the open world design was becoming really prominent. It just seemed from this point on we just started getting more and more of these open world first person games. There's huge arguments over which mods you should use when playing Oblivion, and people will go on about them until they bleed from their assholes. And look, there are some visual mods I think are fine to install, which objectively improve.
Yeah, I know he said at the beginning of the video, no mods. No, he said, like, don't propose mods that fix things. I guess that includes the unofficial patch.
Improve things, but I still think people should play through it first, then decide what they think needs fixing after that. At the end of the day, I would ultimately recommend Oblivion, because whilst not everyone's going to have a good experience with it, you're definitely going to have an experience in some way. It is often far from perfect, but if it's the type of game that ends up clicking for you, it can be a really fun, enjoyable, and just time...
Hey, that is a good point. Wasn't like a major problem with Hunt Down the Freeman that one of its levels was just impossible to complete without using the console? So why is it okay when Oblivion does it?
Wasting outlet.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
There's so much stuff I didn't even get to talk about, like half of the memes that came out of this game, for instance. I think a standout being the universal hatred towards the adoring fan. And I could probably sit here all day talking about it, which is about as long as you could spend playing the game before it got boring. In 2011, the sequel Skyrim was released, and if you think Oblivion divided fans, well, wait until you see Skyrim.
What? Wait until you see Skyrim. Bye. Fuck off. I guess that's a lead into a Skyrim video, but... man. Hope he doesn't take it too hard. The fans were pretty united when Skyrim came out. No, it just seems that way. That happens with every Elder Scrolls release. Like, Fallout 4 was the most amazing game to ever come out, and then 6 months later, people were finally allowed to say negative things about it without being fucking pounded into the earth. So the takeaway is, this guy never played Morrowind. That's probably accurate. He's a boomer shooter player, so... The boomer shooter players, I think, would be more likely to play Morrowind. So... It's because Oblivion is magnitudes larger than Hunt Down the Freeman. Yeah, but that's still a problem with your logic. Can't accept it in one thing and just deny it in another. Okay. Speed. We're going to turn this up to 115. What the hell? 115%. That should cut this down 5 minutes. All right. If you need a break, take it now. In the interim, enjoy.
Please welcome Amy Patrician. I'm a bundle of nervous energy, so try to use that. And what better way to break the ice than to show you my baby picture? That's me. Actually, no, I'm not a Viking, but at one point they did feed me like one. But I am a nerd at heart. I have been in the gaming industry now for about 20 years. My career started at Looking Glass Studios in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where I worked on Thief Gold. That was my first game. Very exciting period of my life. Thief 2 was my first major project. And it was, if you've seen the movie Good Will Hunting, it was very much like that. It was a kid from South Boston working with these MIT geniuses, and they accepted me, and I learned a lot. And from there I went to Ion Austin and worked on Thief Deadly Shadows. But for the last 13 years, I've been at Bethesda Game Studios. The first game I worked on there was Blood Moon, the expansion to Morrowind. Then from there, Oblivion, and Skyrim, of course. But really, I've been known as the Fallout guy, sort of. My first big gig at Bethesda was as lead designer and writer of Fallout 3, and then most recently, Fallout Shelter, which just sort of came out of nowhere and was a big hit for us, and in Fallout 4, the most recent thing I worked on.
I should get some voice changing software and do this for my own video just to see how that turns out. I think we could pull it off where I watch my own video on stream, but like I modulate it so that it doesn't sound like me, and then we can see how many people are like call me out for bullying when it's like my own fucking video. The good thing about doing it that way would be that I could monetize it. Please no wacky voice changes. I'm not talking about wacky voice changes. I have to change it just enough that I don't sound like my Morrowind video. That way people think that I'm just bullying some guy. That's the whole point of it. Oh, hang on. It's going to take a second. Yeah, I changed the speed, but I didn't account for the pitch. So this should fix the pitch to not be so fucked up. But we are speeding this up because, boy howdy, I don't want to listen to Emil talk for 40 minutes. Is it fucked? You best be wrong. Hang on. Testing? Sounds fine to me. Premiere, you see it's stuck on 0%. Okay, hang on. I guess we don't get to speed it up. We get to fucking sit through this at normal 100%. Premiere, what's your fucking problem? All right, where do you start talking?
Please welcome Amy Patrician.
Please turn that down. I apologize for the people who had to listen to a minute of this at that volume.
I'm a bundle of nervous energy, so try to use that. And what better way to break the ice than to show you my baby picture? That's me. Actually, no, I'm not a Viking, but at one point they did feed me like one. But I am a nerd at heart. I have been in the gaming industry now for about 20 years. My career started at Looking Glass Studios in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Whoa. Don't cut out the exciting part of this story. Your career started as a game reviewer, and you were editor-in-chief at Adrenaline Vault. Don't skip that part. You had a popular Thief review, so they brought you on to do Thief 2 levels.
Where I worked on Thief Gold, that was my first game. Very exciting.
Also, I think he's kind of selling it like he worked on Thief. Like, no, you made one level in Thief Gold.
Period of my life. Thief 2 was my first major project.
And it was, if you've seen the movie Good Will Hunting, it was very much like that. It was a kid from South Boston working with these MIT geniuses, and they accepted me, and I learned a lot. And from there I went to Ion Austin and worked on Thief Deadly Shadows. But for the last 13 years, I've been at Bethesda Games.
What's weird is he only has a special thanks credit for Thief Deadly Shadows. So I'm not sure the extent of what he actually did. Because it seems like they would credit him as a level designer if he actually did that.
Game Studios. The first game I worked on there was Blood Moon, the expansion to Morrowind.
I think he worked on the Pirates of the Caribbean game, but he's leaving an important part of the story out, which is that Pete Hines, he actually worked with Peter Hines on old Petey at Adrenaline Vault. And Pete Hines became the VP of marketing. So Emil basically, pressed his friend to get him a job at Bethesda Austin, which was making the Pirates of the Caribbean game. And then for Blood Moon, he switched over to the Maryland division. So
Then from there, Oblivion and Skyrim, of course. But really, I've been known as the Fallout guy, sort of. My first big gig at Bethesda was as lead designer and writer of Fallout 3, and then most recently, Fallout Shelter, which just sort of came out of nowhere and was a big hit for us, and in Fallout 4.
Did I lower his voice? No, I returned it to normal speed.
The most recent thing I worked on. So why am I here in Copenhagen?
I don't remember Thieves 2's story. Did he write it? No, that's not how Thieves 2's production worked. Thief 2, they basically got a bunch of level designers to make levels, and then they wrote a story around it. But he's not a writer. Here's the thing. His position is not writing. His position is design. And at Bethesda, designers also double as writers.
I don't do this.
So he's pitching himself as a writer, but you have to remember he's talking about his position was lead designer. So he was lead designer on Fallout Shelter, which means that he was the lead who designed the game.
I don't speak. I prefer to stay in my office and make games. This is why. This happy couple right here, right? Clearly happy, clearly drunk, okay? Where was this picture taken? Copenhagen. These are my parents, okay? This picture was taken...
God. Can you imagine being at an industry conference and hearing this guy talk about his fucking life story?
Oh God,
we are actively bleeding viewers because of this.
1979. My parents left for a week, okay? They came back happier than I had ever seen them. And I remember seeing these pictures, and that's why they came here to Copenhagen for a week, so I knew there was something magical here. But it's not just that, right? It's Copenhagen and Denmark. You guys have games, right? You guys know games. And it's almost surprising to see how many games are made here. Movie Company, right? Limbo, of course. Mass Prince of Brotherhood, right? Subway Surfers, huge hit. One of my personal favorites, Hitman, right? Oh, of course, when I think of Danish gaming, Chili Con Carne, right? So what's the story with Bethesda stories? How do we make our stories, and how do I personally make my stories? I thought, it's funny, I had never really thought of the process that I use to write stories and make games, and then I realized I do have a process. And I started to put it together. I realized that there are 3 primary points that I use when I create a story for one of our games. So I thought I'd run through those.
That's not how nepotism works. He used a connection to get a job. Is that not exactly what nepotism is? Like, using your connections to get things. That's nepotism. He didn't present his merits as a designer. He presented the fact that he knew a guy who worked at a management position at Bethesda.
3 points for everyone here today. The first is KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
Thank you, Emil. I'm just going to mark that down.
Keep it simple, stupid. This is my own personal rule for myself, right? And I'll go through each of these individually. The next. Write what you know.
Okay, write what you know. Hang on. 1 second. Footage. Dark Brotherhood. Where is she? Where is she? All right, here's what Emil knows.
And the great thing about killing a target up close and personal is you can talk to him before you do it. You know, say something scary. Oh, for example, this one time, I had a contract to kill a little Nord girl at her birthday party. She asked me if I was the jester. So I said to her, "No, I am a messenger of death." You should have seen the look on her face. Anyway, she won't be seeing age 6.
Hiring your friends is still nepotism. I know that you think that, like, yeah, I was in a fraternity and I know all these people and I have all these connections. If you're leveraging a connection to get a position over somebody, like over another hiring practice where somebody who is talented, you get picked because you knew somebody over somebody who has a better resume, that's nepotism. Now, we don't necessarily know if that's truly what happened, but it's clear that he leveraged his relationship with somebody in order to get a job. How's the script for the Oblivion video? It's done.
Write what you know.
It's like 99% done. All we're doing is details.
One of the oldest tricks for writing, right? Write what you know. It's true. And 3, this is a big one. Great games are played, not made. This is...
Thank you for your fucking platitudes. Games are played, not made.
Tricks for writing, right? Write what you know. It's true. And 3, this is a big one. Great games are played, not made. This is one of Bethesda's studio mottos, but this is a personal motto for me as well. So, going to the first point. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. What does that mean? Well, for me, that means when I'm coming up with a story for a game, I like to concentrate on strong central themes. And 1 or 2 strong central themes is enough. I find that think of a good movie or think of a good game, and you can usually think of a good movie or a good game with a good story, and you can usually realize that there's a strong central theme, a strong undercurrent, right?
How much do you think this conference paid, or you had to pay to get into this conference?
See a bad movie, play a bad game with a bad story, and it's usually, sometimes it's a mess. I saw a movie recently, which I will not name, that was kind of a mess. And the story was all over the place, and it really didn't know what it wanted to be. So Casablanca, one of my favorite movies, right? Ask yourself, what is Casablanca about? I mean, look at the picture, it's a love story, right? It is, but if you look deeper at Casablanca, Casablanca is about sacrifice, right? It's giving up what you love for something greater. The Incredibles.
Okay, how does that play into your motto of keep it simple?
A movie about superheroes, right? Not really. It's a movie about family. It's a movie that says we are stronger as a group than we are on our own. Okay? The great Mads Mikkelsen. This is a Danish movie, The Hunt, right? Great movie. This is a movie about a man who is wrongfully accused of a horrible crime. And the movie is about that, but if you look at the underpinnings of that movie, the movie is really about loneliness and isolation.
Todd is talented. I think it's just, if Todd had to get back in the trenches, he might be rusty, but it's very clear he has his position because he knows what he's doing.
And what it feels like to be totally separate and isolated from everyone around you. And of course this, this is for film, but this is the same for games as well, right? This War of Mine, what is this game about? Like, war, obviously, but I mean, you look at what is the story about? It's about sacrifice, it's about survival, right? And it's about making very hard decisions about what's important. Gone Home, great game. A game whose story is not very obvious when you play it. When you play this game, you return home and either your house is deserted, you don't know where your family is, you think it's a horror game. And by the end you realize, no, that the actual story of the game is about...
All right, I'm ready to give my 15-minute presentation on making games. What? Emil, we booked you for an hour.
Young girls, search for self-discovery, basically. And of course, The Last of Us. If you think of a game with a great story, a lot of people think of The Last of Us. And that sort of combines the themes of, of family, of survival, you know, and about working together.
Okay, how does this play into your stupid motto?
So it's a game about a virus and a post-apocalypse.
Is your motto basically just reduce every story down to its base elements?
But really, it's the story of these two characters and how they're trying to work together, right? And, you know, Skyrim. Skyrim is a game about dragons, right? Even in the...
Wow. I can see why you were called a senior writer and not lead designer on Skyrim. So this literally is just reductionism.
Skyrim is a game about dragons, right? Even in the studio. What is the game about? It's about dragons. But the story is not really about dragons, right? It is about the lone hero, right? It is much more biblical than a lot of the other stories we've done. It's about the Dragonborn, the Dovahkiin is much more...
What's that Carrie Fisher clip where she goes, "It's about family"? Like, this is what that's reminding me of.
Of a messiah sort of character.
I think he's trying to say that at the core of any good story, there's something very simple. Yeah, I'm familiar, Boulder Punch. I talk about his Thief 2 levels in my script. You can be reductionist about any story. You can do this for any story. So as a design motto, it doesn't work because, oh, there should be a centralized theme that's really easy to understand. Okay. What does that inform about the process?
And, you know, when you look at Fallout 4. So Fallout 4 is about androids, right? Or is it? I mean, Fallout 4, there are a lot of themes, right? Fallout 4 is about 1950s Americana. Or Fallout 4 is about, you know, the post-apocalypse. But at its core, Fallout 4 is about...
A Serbian story is about family.
Androids that look like humans, okay? And so the theme, and this became a very important point for us, and it's something that we didn't realize until a little late in pre-production. The most important theme in Fallout 4 is suspicion. Who is this person sitting next to me? Are they human? Do they want to do me harm? Which is a theme that is very relevant in the world today, right? You know, am I human? What are my own motivations? And so that, when you look at the themes of Fallout 4, that was most important.
It's about androids or some shit. I don't know. I was wasted the entire time.
To me. Now, going to the second point, write what you know. What is this?
Okay, so there was no payoff to it. Just keep it simple. Just reduce your story down to its real basic roots, and that's the key to success. Once you understand what your story is about at its core, you know, you'll print the bucks too.
Write what you know. Does this mean that if you are working as a dishwasher and decide to become a game developer, you need to make a game about washing dishes? No. Though that would be a fun game. An HTC Live game with a headset washing dishes would be really cool. No, it means that you... Actually, I'll show you this. This person right there, right? You probably don't recognize him. His face is not very memorable, right? Does anybody know who he is? Yes, Hayao Miyazaki, right? Creator of some of the best stories that we've seen in anime, right? And he got into a little bit of hot water recently. He made some comments online that circulated online that had become memes and everything. And
I'm going to stop you right there because you are killing this fucking stream. Okay. That's it. I'm calling it. How are we feeling? Listen. I'm going to link another video. This is homework for you guys. We may watch it on Sunday. Let's see. Throw that in the chat. I linked it on last Sunday. I'd like people to check it out. I wanted to get to 1,000 views before we cover it. So I want as many people as I can get who are interested in watching it to at least check it out and see if it's their thing before we actually watch it ourselves. That was boring. It got a lot worse. We went off the rails just a little bit. So what was his point? Not sure. His point was that you probably wasted your money to go to that conference. Which is a shame. People should go to conferences. Conferences are good things for industries. When you go to one and there's a boring presenter who just kind of meanders about, you know, and you're like, well, I got to choose. Do I listen to Emil Pagliarulo, the guy who made Fallout 4? That could be a good conference for my career. Or I could go to this one. It's about like the nuances of level design. And then you end up choosing the Emil one and you're like, fuck, I should have gone to the level design presentation. His point was that Skyrim is kind of like the Bible too. Yes. Oh, it's never over. These things always come back. Conferences should always be free to attend. They cost money to put on, though. Like, you have to rent space. They shouldn't be like $600 like VidCon, but just imagine paying $600 and then like halfway at like you get to like September and VidCon's like, well, actually, we're gonna need everybody to wear masks and you're gonna have your vaccine passport and everybody's gonna have to practice social distancing and we have to limit ticket sales and all that crazy shit. That's why they shouldn't host it in Anaheim. I think talks like Emil's are important for kind of understanding why it's nepotism. Isn't Emil set up to be Todd's successor? Basically. Yeah. Yep. I watched part of the video you linked and it's more just trashing every point, even if it was. So we're going to wind things down. We might be back Sunday. Depends on how I'm feeling. Going through the audio recording process right now. And after that, I mean, once the audio's done, there's not really point in watching any more Oblivion videos. So we might have to transition over to like editing streams. I can stream me doing like waveform editing, I guess. I don't know. That doesn't take long. In the interim, you can check out the Discord. That'll get you some notifications. Although there's a service that I'm looking at that it's like called Notify Me. I saw it the other day. That might be worth using. I'm not on there yet, so like don't form an account. I'm kind of waiting to see how it works out for a few other people. And the idea is that instead of relying on YouTube's shitty notifications or having to install spyware like Discord to get notifications, that you can just have like one thing and get all your notifications, which sounds great to me. Yeah, but online conferences suck. I like the top comment on that Emil video. I'm going to have to look at that then. In short, if you want to become a great writer, listen to all of his advice and do the exact opposite. Yeah, that's a... if he can do it, anybody can do it. Discord is spyware? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Anyways, I don't know if I'm going to be back Sunday. I still have to figure out editing streams. I need people to leave me comments or fucking to talk about it. Or if you've seen other people do it, just give me some ideas. There might be a way to do it without spoiling people.